Arkane Studios is one of the best game developers out there. They make my favorite genre of games, which focus on solid game mechanics and let you approach your objectives the way you want to tackle them. They have a clear love for old PC games like System Shock, Deus Ex, and Thief. So it hurts me as a fan to see that their games aren't performing at the heights of which they should. So it got me thinking that their games are made for the hardcore gamers, or at least for the moment. I tried to put myself in the eyes of someone who would know some game franchises but have a small understanding of each game coming out in the year. Most wouldn't know the name Arkane Studios, but they do know Bethesda, their publisher. Most non-hardcore gamers think Bethesda makes these games as well. But the problem is that franchises like Elder Scrolls and Fallout not only sell well, but are known outside the hardcore gaming circle. Why doesn't it work for Dishonored, or as far as I can tell, Prey? Bethesda were in the same position as Arkane was a few years ago. If we look at sales, for example, we can see that Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion sold 4.4 million units in its lifetime, while we look at Skyrim's numbers, for example, have a massive jump to 30 million. Even I was surprised when non-gamers knew and played Skyrim. Some haven't even heard of the Elder Scrolls, or Oblivion, or even Morrowind. The same logic even works with Fallout 3 to 4. Such a big jump. How do these games with little hand-holding and deep game mechanics appeal to such a mass demographic? Wouldn't Bethesda's name to a mass audience mean quality? It comes down to word of mouth, which is the hardest to create because it's an external factor and it's out of your control, but helpful because it's not only free, but most customers trust friends or family's advice because they know them personally and know what you like. The problem was that fans of these games aren't talking loud enough about them. Even then, games like these might not be something a mass audience wants at this moment. We can see that even with the sales of Deus Ex Mankind Divided, a result in putting in the series on hiatus. Of course, there are many factors to consider. One of them was the release window of Dishonored 2. I bought the collector's edition, along with fans of the first and a few newcomers, but the mass audience was buying Call of Duty or Final Fantasy 15. Even something like Watch Dogs 2 and Titanfall 2 didn't perform well either. This can be contributed to a small amount of disposable income in the current economy. It also depends on social factors, individual factors, and this can create a want or need for a product and weigh out the pros and cons. This is what you call a decision-making process. This includes awareness, information searching, evaluation of the competition, purchase, and post-purchase behavior. Most general audiences value a game with its brand recognition and replayability. On top of that, where does their dollar go to? With possible involvement with social circles and playing with friends or being in that water cooler conversation about their experiences and the fear of missing out about talking about games. Arkane and Bethesda were trying to make Dishonored 2 the next big game. You can tell with the types of advertisement channels they used. I saw many billboards and bus advertisements around my city, even TV commercials. They're not that cheap. Maybe they do have a plan in the future that more gamers know the name Dishonored, when or if it comes back in 5 years or so. After all, I'm even surprised we even got a sequel. Now when we look at Prey, we have a few things to consider. The name recognition isn't there. Not many people know of the first Prey, which has nothing got to do with this game. On top of that, a game that might have sold better, the cancelled Prey sequel where you're a space bounty hunter. That could be more appealing to a mass audience by taking away horror and replacing it with action. The release schedule of the game is something I do admire, staying away from the crowded holiday season, even enough from this year's busy first few months. Though I do wish that they delayed the game for a few weeks to clean up those bugs, so the game's overall score doesn't take a hit. Another thing to consider is that the general market for these games are only a handful of people. If we compare it to another game franchise that attracts the hardcore, Dark Souls. These games have a high alienation rate due to the difficulty curve, and hours needed to perfect its systems. The series is quite well known, but sales aren't failures, but they aren't hitting that mainstream number of 10 million onwards. Even the new Resident Evil, a survival horror game, only sold 3.4 million copies. And that's the thing, maybe in the current market there isn't high demand for these games, unless Arkane makes the demand, either in lack of these games coming out, or continue to get their IP out there, because it isn't the games themselves that are the problem, it's the knowledge, the product and value the consumers put into these products. Even when we look at studio sizes, Arkane manages to create an amazing high quality games, especially when you compare it to bigger studios with higher amount of resources. They don't need to downsize if these games don't sell, so they can experiment and fine tune their games to do something different and unique. I do believe that they're on the right track to gain mass popularity, and they should continue to do what they are doing, and hope that more people experience their amazing, fine, polished games.